I'm Christy, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. I hope you like my background. I kind of tried to do it like on theme, you know. So it's a little bit of a different video today from anything that I've ever done before, but it is something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. And by really long time, I do mean like 4 or 5 years. My whole life pretty much, I have been obsessed with mythology, folklore, cryptozoology, basically anything supernatural. So, I mean, and I also love makeup, so why not like marry the two of them together in a beautiful union of makeup and mythology. But sometimes it won't be mythology, sometimes it will be other things. But that doesn't have the same ring to it as makeup and mythology, so we're going with that. So I first got the idea for doing these videos maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and I've just been like sitting on it and like procrastinating, and I don't know why I do this. Maybe it's like a Virgo thing, I don't know, like any like astrology people, like let me know. I used to listen to this podcast and it was called Spirits Podcast, and it was basically two girls drinking themed cocktails together and talking about different myths, legends, folklore, that kind of thing. And I used to always think, wow, like I would love to like create something like that maybe on YouTube. And it had been something that I'd had in the back of my mind the entire time that I was going to do it. It's just, you know, like time as a concept. It was 1 minute, it was 5 years ago, and now it's now and I still haven't done it, but here I am doing it. Also, some of my favourite videos to watch is Robert Welsh Ghost Stories and Bailey Sarian's Murder Mystery and Makeup. So those are both like really big inspirations for me doing this as well. Anyway, I feel like this intro is going to be so long, and when people have like a really long intro, I'm always like get to the point. So today's makeup and mythology is a Greek myth, and it is about Persephone and how she became queen of the underworld. So Persephone, she was the daughter of Demeter and of Zeus. Zeus, who I'm sure needs no introduction, but I will give him a brief one anyway, just in case. Zeus was king of the gods, the sky father, the god of thunder, and ancient Greece's answer to the modern day fuckboy. Really, I am serious, Disney's portrayal of Zeus was not correct. And Demeter, Persephone's mother, she was the god of fertility, of agriculture, and of the harvest as well. So she was incredibly important for crops growing, nature, plants, food, that kind of thing. The most important thing in the whole world to Demeter was her daughter. She just adored and loved her with every fibre of her being. She absolutely doted on her. Persephone is said to have been incredibly beautiful, at one with nature, much just like the more youthful version of her mother pretty much. The earth around her seemed to flourish and grow just wherever she was. Animals wanted to be around her, flowers wanted to grow. She was like a real bringer of life. Am I covering my face the entire time, like so you're just looking at this? Maybe I'll like try and do like this. That's maybe better. I like to think of Persephone as like a Disney princess, you know, that like all animals are always around them, birds are always like chirping, like Snow White's in the forest and all the little animals are like creeping over to her and stuff. Like that's how I like to think of Persephone in my head. So one day Persephone was prancing through a meadow on the earth with her friends, you know, just doing whatever it is that teen gods and goddesses do. I don't know, I've never been a teen god or goddess, so I wouldn't know, but I can imagine just... She was hanging out with her friends in a meadow anyway, that's all you really need to know, when in the distance she seen the most beautiful wildflower that she had ever seen before. Persephone, being completely entranced by this beautiful flower, she wanders a little bit away from her friends to go and take a closer look at it, and they don't notice that she's wandered away, and that is the last time that they've seen her. It was like she just poof vanished like completely into thin air. What a mystery. What's happened? We'll find out. So when news got back to Demeter about Persephone's disappearance, she was obviously distraught. Like I said, Persephone was absolutely everything to Demeter, and without her, like, life just had no meaning. It was then that Demeter decided that she would spend every minute of every day looking for her daughter. She would travel the entire earth, she would ask everyone, she would leave no stone unturned, but she would not rest until she found Persephone and brought her back to her nice and safe. So days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and still no sign of Persephone. But Demeter's mourning and grief did not waver. She was still adamant that she was going to find her daughter, which, I mean, obviously I'm sure your child wouldn't just go missing and after a few months you'd be like, oh well, I tried. All of the mortals on earth started to suffer because of Demeter's grief. Like I said, she was the goddess of agriculture and of farming and fertility. I don't know why my mind just like paused there, my brain just went whoop and completely shut off. So yeah, she was the goddess of agriculture and fertility, so without her there were no crops. Everything, all the plants started to die, all the animals started to die, and on earth there begun a great famine. So everyone's starving, everyone's dying, and the cries of the people reach up to Mount Olympus. That's where the gods reside, and news gets back to Zeus on what has happened and that everyone is starving to death, not having the best time. When Zeus realises that the reason that everyone is starving and dying is because Demeter is in such pain and she's neglected doing her godly duties, he's like, oh, man, I really fucked up, what have I done? I don't know if that was his exact words, but that's like my interpretation of like what he might have said. And how did Zeus fuck up, I hear you ask? Well, I'm gonna tell you how Zeus fucked up. I do not like where this eye makeup is going, I'll tell you that for nothing. Hades had reminded Zeus of a bargain that he had made him several years before, that he would allow him to take one of his children to marry and be his queen. Now, I know what you're thinking. If Hades is Zeus's brother and Persephone is Zeus's daughter, does that mean that Persephone is Hades' niece and he's her uncle? You would be correct. It turns out incest, not really a big problem for like the ancient Greek gods. It was fine, it was a different time, I guess. Got to keep the bloodlines pure, you know. That's what they said, not me. And it also turns out that consent wasn't much of a huge thing for the gods either, because Zeus was like, oh, you want to marry my daughter and I've not even asked her? Yeah, okay, sure. So remember the flower that Persephone saw in the meadow? Turns out that that had had a little enchantment put on it by Zeus so that it would lure her in. He could open up the ground, well, his ceiling, our ground, come out in his great chariot, snatch Persephone away and take her down to the underworld with him. So first we're incesting, now we're kidnapping. We also married someone without consent. Anyway, Zeus, and seeing the grief that Demeter was going through and how that was affecting the earth, I mean, I'm sure he was probably just sick of like the people like whining and praying to him that they were starving, but anyway, he then decided that Persephone had to be returned back to her mother again because things just couldn't go on like this. So he sent Hermes, who was the god of the messengers, down to the underworld to tell Hades, I'm sorry, but your bride, she's coming back. Zeus said so, in his word as Bible giver. So Hades, as you can imagine, was devastated. We know he's the king of darkness, but he did actually have very deep feelings for Persephone. He had fallen in love with her. Something about how warm and kind and compassionate she was, just being the polar opposite to him, really drew him in, and it really made him start to feel feelings that he had never felt for anyone before. He had really fallen, like he had it pretty bad for her, honestly. So he was devastated when he was told that she could no longer be his queen.
You know, I haven't been this choked up since I got a hunk of moussaka caught in my throat. Huh?
Hades went to tell Persephone the news that Zeus had ordered. In the morning, she was to leave the underworld forever and she was to be returned back to her mother again. Persephone at this point was feeling a mixture of emotions. She was happy and excited that she would be going back and she would be seeing her mum. She did miss like her bright, beautiful, vibrant life, but her time in the underworld wasn't all bad. Hades did treat her very well, and she was the queen of the underworld, so she had servants. She was living like a very nice life, and in the way that Hades had fallen in love with her, she had actually started to fall in love with him as well. It could have been that, it could have been Stockholm Syndrome, we don't really know for sure. But yeah, as much as she wanted to return back home in Mount Olympus, she had really started to enjoy her time in the underworld. It almost brought out like a darkness in her that she never knew that she had, and she was really like embracing that darkness and embracing death as much as she was life. So she was really torn on what it was that she wanted to do. I should point out that there are adaptations where Persephone hates her time in the underworld. She hates Hades, she really resents him for what he's done to her, and she can't wait to return to Mount Olympus and be back with her mother. But for the sake of a love story, I am hopeless romantic, we're going to go with this version. So Hades asked Persephone that if for that one last night together to show that there was no hard feelings between the two, in kind of a way as like a peace offering and a goodbye, if she would share a couple of pomegranate seeds with him. Now I don't know if pomegranate seeds is code for anything, but Persephone then accepted his offer and she took the 6 pomegranate seeds from him and she ate them. Now I don't know if you know, but Hades definitely knew, and that hopeless romantic in me likes to think that Persephone kinda knew as well. So it is said that if when you're in the underworld it is said that if when you're in the underworld and you consume any food while you're there, then you will be forever belonging to that world and you will always have to return back to it. That and fairy rings. If you're ever sucked into a fairy ring and you ever want to like come home and see your family and stuff again, then don't accept any food from them. I would probably stay in the fairy ring, but that's just personal choice. Anyway, Persephone, she's eaten the pomegranate seeds and now she is bound to the underworld forever. But like I said, even though she'd embraced her dark side, even though she'd fallen in love with our goth king Hades and liked being the bad bitch powerful queen of the underworld, she still loved the warm, compassionate side of her. She still did miss her mum, because she did love her mum just as much as her mum loved her. So she was still really torn. So, like any good relationship, they came to a compromise. It was agreed that Persephone would spend 6 months of the year, one for every pomegranate seed that she had ate while in the underworld. She would spend that 6 months in the underworld with Hades, and the other 6 months of the year she would spend up on Mount Olympus with her mother. When Persephone and Demeter were reunited again, the earth started to flourish, everything in nature started to grow, everything was bright and beautiful again, the sun was out and everything was back to its beautiful, wonderful way. You know what, I'm just going to finish my makeup and then I'll be back. This timing has not gone according to plan at all. This will get better. So 6 months when she's with her mum, everything's beautiful. 6 months when she's in the underworld, everything's cold and starts to like die and stuff, and it is said that that is how the seasons came about. I feel like I was very aggressive there. Spring and summer represent Persephone's presence and Demeter's joy at having her daughter by her side once again, and autumn and winter, when things start to get like colder and things start to die, that represents when Persephone's down in the underworld doing hot girl shit. And that is the story of how Persephone became queen of the underworld. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and my retelling of this Greek story. I'll need to sort out my timings with doing my makeup, because it is like a lot harder than you would think to like, you would think it would be easy just talk and do makeup, but I can't seem to do both things at once. If you have liked it and you would like to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe, and you may as well like the video while you're there as well, why not? And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!